Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. There aren't many companies in East Tennessee that have a history dating back more than 100 years, and there aren't many companies in all of America that have stayed in family hands for 4 generations. That's the story of A.G. Hines Company. You can trust them. Best building materials and tools for your next project can be found at A.G. Hines Company right in downtown Knoxville. Okay, as has been speculated for months, Tennessee went ahead and fired Jeremy Pruitt for cause this week. And the word dozens has been kicked around with regard to level 1 and level 2 violations. Notre Dame got a smack on the wrist this week. They lose a scholarship. They have a few less visits. That's for like 2 level 2s and a level 3 violation. Mm-hmm. If you're talking dozens of level 1 and level 2 violations at Tennessee, is this worse than you expected in terms of what we haven't seen it yet? It's not done yet, but from what they let on, is that worse than you anticipated?
Well, when you say stunning and serious and shocking, I guess no. Going in, I wasn't really sure. I had heard both ends of that spectrum, that it was unbelievably bad and they were doing this and that. And then I heard others say, oh, no, this is just routine. So, John, I guess I'm not. It's hard to be surprised around Tennessee athletics anymore. So I'm going to say I'm not really that surprised, but I think they are substantial based on what I've heard.
Yeah, I think what you were hearing is sort of both of those things are true, in that these things are widespread, but there's not a lot of programs that are doing like a full-blown colonoscopy of their college football program. And I think if you did that in a lot of places, you might find similar things. And ultimately, like, you can't really predict what the NCAA is going to do. They shrug off precedent constantly. Tennessee has obviously been very transparent with this. They started this. They're probably going to self-impose. They might get a slap on, not a slap on the wrist, but less than you might. I mean, I think bowl bans, I'd be shocked if you're not dealing with that. But in terms of
probably.
Yeah, probably. You might try to get away with 1 year. They had their chance in 2020 to get ahead of it, and they didn't do it like LSU did. But it's going to be substantial. And the idea is that you're going to have to hire a coach who says, well,
I don't care.
Yeah. Well, that's good luck.
Go ahead.
I have a quick thought on the NCAA, if I can make it quick. When they, due to the pandemic, they released a lot of people from their enforcement staff, right? Mm-hmm. So they have an incredible backlog. I wonder if Tennessee self-imposes, this is what we got, and the NCAA says, we don't have enough people to investigate this. We'll accept your word. We'll accept Mike Glazier's word. We'll accept your bowl ban, your scholarship reductions. I wonder if they might be able to get away with that.
That's a good point. That would be that's a hopeful way of looking at it. Things usually don't work out for Tennessee in that way, but that's a possibility. That's a real possibility.
They did when Doug Dickey was here.
That's right. Doug Dickey would have had him doing that. By the way, all this talk, it reminds me, I forgot to pay you guys last week. So if you could pass those down, as usual, I put it in the McDonald's bag.
I'm going to start from the bottom up.
By the way, as usual, they're empty.
Just doesn't feel big enough.
The Dan Patrick Show comes out with his sources tell him that they were paying players with cash in McDonald's bags. That goes national because it's Dan Patrick. I've never known him to break news. That's not his thing. And then the same source, minutes later, supposedly said the same source told him that Jason Witten is already in negotiation. I think that puts a needle in the airbag of the McDonald's thing.
It's really funny, but it's not based in a lot of reality. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm not buying the McDonald's thing. All right, famous last words. The with cause angle, that doesn't come without risks, okay? There's some things that could wind up happening there. You could wind up having to pay him once he takes you to court, and it's clear he intends to do that, but it could be worse than that. Let me go ahead and put up this list for you. There's a possibility he spills his guts. Let's say he knows he's going to the NFL or somewhere else, and he just says, I know of all kinds of things Tennessee was doing on that campus. It brings in other sports. It could do anything. I mean, who knows? You don't want him spilling his guts, I don't think. Next, penalties could be worse than anticipated. This could lead to more losses on the field, which would be fewer tickets sold. So you do this and you're thinking you're going to save money by getting them without a buyout, and it costs you that way. Candidates may dislike the fact that you're avoiding contracts. David, I know that some guys at The Athletic, they talked to 5 coaches, and that was mentioned big by those 5 anonymous coaches. Candidates might question the support coaches are going to get from the administration here. Same front. You've already lost legal fees, going to lose more if you go to court. Bowl money, bowl share out, not only the revenue from your own bowls, but the share of the SEC you're going to do with that. So, again, you're saving money on his buyout. It could cost you more in that bowl sharing. You could lose in court pay the buyout and possibly even get damages. Now, I wouldn't anticipate that happening, but again, it's worst case scenario university. So this is not without its risks, I don't think. I'm glad that they hired Michael Glazier. He's buttoned up. We know his history here with Bruce Pearl and everything else. But I wouldn't put it past Tennessee to have somehow accidentally sabotaged themselves along the way. All it takes, I would think, would be one dumb email, one dumb text exchange, Jeremy, sorry this happens, but you know how the game is played. Anything like that could undercut it. I don't think this is done yet.
It's extremely risky. We've seen this. Obviously, Kansas tried to do it. Jeremy Pruitt hired the same lawyer that David Beatty has. Wake Forest has tried to do this. UConn tried to do this with Kevin Ollie. It doesn't work that well. And so, my guess is this is probably headed toward a settlement. Tennessee, the starting point is 0. I'm not sure that that's where the finish line is going to be, but it's a risky strategy, and it is something that is growing in college sports and something that within the coaching community, they're not pleased because you have to sort of try and honor the contract. And it's like if schools keep doing this becomes more common, it's like, well, what's the point of having these contracts and buyouts anyway? You sort of have to kind of blow up the whole thing.
Talk to me about the roster, because that's another thing a new coach is going to have to look at with the new transfer rules. This could be devastating. Now, you can look at it on the other side and say, well, he's going to be able to bring some guys in, et cetera, but you got a lot of guys. It's 20 plus players since the start of the season. Mm-hmm. Now, some of those were guys you've never heard of, but 20 is a lot just in terms of bodies. Just this past week when this firing was announced, Wanye Morris, Quavaris Crouch, Henry To'o, Eric Gray, there's talk, Jimmy, of a couple of those coming back, but nothing's guaranteed at the moment.
No, and there are a couple of them that are looking at coming back. The one key thing is that Wednesday's the drop add date for Tennessee. They started classes on January 20th, so the 27th. And I think there are a couple of them that are interested in coming back, but I also think they're interested in knowing who the coach is going to be. So they've got until that time frame to decide whether or not they're going to stay at Tennessee. But there are a couple of them that are looking at staying.
For that reason, you think that may be why – again, I said earlier, it looks like this search is moving pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. Is that one reason you believe that White may be moving quickly because of that drop add date?
Yes, and I think he'll have somebody in place no later than Wednesday, maybe even sooner than that. But I do think that's a part of it. I also think they're going to bring in a commitment, Rock Taylor. There'll be another player. So numbers-wise, I think, as far as incoming players, I think they're going to be okay.
We'll discuss whether or not they should be rushing a little bit later in the show. But next, we'll talk about the state of Tennessee's program. And is this the new low point? Hard to imagine it's not. We'll see if these guys agree with me. I think it is. And then we'll also talk about Philip Fulmer getting $1.3 million to fail. Come on back on the Sports List.